I'm going to be reading Charlotte's Web. Where's Papa going with that ex? Asked Fern as her mother. Sorry. Where's Papa going with that axe? Asked Fern to her mother as they were sitting at the table for breakfast. We're setting out to the hog house, replied Mrs. Arable. Some pigs were born last night. I don't see why he needs snacks, continued Fern, who was only 8. Well, said her mother, one of the pigs is a runt. It's very small and weak, and it will never amount to anything. So your father has decided to do away with it. Do away with it, shrieked Fern. You mean kill it? Just because it's smaller than the others? Mrs. Arable put a pitcher of cream on the table. Don't yell, Fern, she said. Your father is right. The pig will probably die anyway. Fern pushed the chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was wet and the air smelled of springtime. Fern's sneakers were soaking by the time she caught up with her father. Please don't kill it, she sobbed. It's unfair. Mr. Arable stopped walking. Fern, he said gently, you will have to learn to control yourself. Control myself, yelled Fern. This is a matter of life and death, and you talk about controlling myself? Tears ran down her cheeks as she took hold of the axe and tried to pull it out of her father's hand. Fern, Mr. Arrow called. I know more about raising a litter of pigs than you do. A weakling makes trouble. Now run along. But it's unfair, cried Fern. The pig couldn't help being born small, could it? If I had been very small at birth, would you have killed me? Mr. Arrow smiled. Certainly not, he said, looking down at his daughter with love. But this is different. A little girl is something, a little runny pig is another. I see no difference, replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. This is the most terrible case of injustice I've ever heard of. A queer look came from John Arable's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. All right, he said. You go back to the house, and I'll bring them around when I come in. I'll let you start it on the bottle like a baby. Then when you see what trouble a pig can be. When John returned to the house half an hour later, he carried a carton under his arm. Fern was upstairs changing her sneakers. The kitchen table was set for breakfast, and the room smelled of coffee, bacon, damp plaster, the wood that smoked from the stove. Put it on the chair, Mrs. Arable said. John set the carton down at Fern's place. Then he walked to the sink and washed his hands and dried them on the roller towel. Fern came slowly down the stairs. Her eyes were red from crying. As she approached the chair, the carton wobbled, and there was a scratching noise. Fern looked at her father. Then she lifted the lid of the carton. There inside, looking up at her, was a newborn pig. It was a white one. The morning light shone through its ears, turning them pink. He's yours, John said, saved from untimely death. May the good Lord forgive me for this foolishness. Fern couldn't take her eyes off the tiny pig. Oh, she whispered. And look at him. He's absolutely perfect. She closed the curtain carefully. First kissed her father, then kissed her mother. Then she opened the lid again to lift the pig out. She held it against her cheek. At this moment, her brother Avery came into the room. Avery was 10. He was heavily armed, an air rifle in one hand and a wooden dagger in the other. What's that? He demanded. What's Fern got? She's got a guest for breakfast, Mrs. Arable, said Mrs. Arable. Wash your hands and face Avery. Let's see it, said Avery, setting his gun down. You call that miserable thing a pig? That's a fine specimen of a pig. It's no bigger than a white rat. Wash up and eat your breakfast, Avery, said his mother. School will be along in a half an hour. Can I have a big tea, Pop? Asked Avery. No, I only distribute pigs to early risers, Mr. Arable. World of injustice as a result. She has now a pig. It's small but sure and nevertheless a pig. It just shows what can happen when a person gets out of bed promptly. Let's eat. But Fern couldn't eat until her pig had a drink of milk. Miss Arable found a baby and nursing rubber nipple. She poured warm milk into the bottle. Then the nipple over the top and handed it to Fern. Give him breakfast, she said. A minute later, Fern was seated on the floor in the corner of the kitchen with her infant between her knees, teaching it to suck on from the bottle. The pig, though tiny, had a good appetite and caught on quickly. The school bus hung from their road. Run, commanded Miss Arable, taking the pig. Run, commanded from Fern and slipping the donut into her hand. Avery grabbed his gun and another donut. The children ran out to the road and climbed onto the bus. Fern took no notice of the others on the bus. She just sat down at the window thinking that a blissful world has showed with the charge of a pig. By the time the bus reached school, Fern had named her pet. It's like the most beautiful name she could think of. Its name is Wolford, she whispered to herself. She was still thinking away about the pig when her teacher said, Fern, what's the capital of Pennsylvania? Wilbur, replied Fern dreamily. The pupless giggled. Fern blushed. Well, thanks for letting me read a chapter of Charlotte's Web to you guys. Go to another one that says Charlotte's Web chapter 2. This is just Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web. It's backwards. It's an upside down. I'm sorry that I paused a couple times. It's just... Bye guys. Like and subscribe.